I'm with Margaret McIntosh. Margaret is a famous person here in Berks County, and I am pleased as her state senator to introduce her to my audience who watch my program about what's going on in Berks County and in the 11th District, because Margaret has an incredible story to tell about what she is a part of, the Paralympic team in dressage, recently competing in Rio de Janeiro. Pretty amazing. Somebody from Berks County, and many of us may not be fully aware of what she has accomplished. So Margaret, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and share your story a little bit. Now, just for all of us, and you know I need a lesson in a lot of things, but tell me, what is dressage, and tell me also then, what are the Paralympics?
Well, the Paralympics started in Great Britain after the Second World War as a venue for injured combatants to actually participate in physical competitions in a parallel to the able-bodied Olympics.
That's where the para comes
exactly.
from. Okay.
And that's the very important distinction. It's not the Special Olympics who have mental challenges, but actually individuals who have physical challenges, and everyone is graded according to their ability so that we compete with others of a comparable level in order to make the competitions fair. Dressage is actually the discipline of riding a horse in a very specific test, kind of like the figure skaters do with their
jumping and
well, yes.
Right.
We don't get to jump, especially not at my level.
Right.
But the horses do programmed figures very specifically. Their feet have to form a certain pattern, and they have to have a kind expression on their face. They have to look like they're enjoying it. And the fun part about being a paraequestrian is that the horses are so much a part of the competition and so in tune with their riders. It's heartwarming to see people who have a hard time expressing themselves verbally or moving at all to get that mobility from the horse. And the competitions in Rio de Janeiro took place over 4 days. There are different categories of paraequestrians, from those who are the most involved with their disability. That's the category that I'm in. There are people who really cannot walk well on their own. Two other competitors who may have MS or one of the less debilitating physical impairments.
Right.
Those dressage tests are much more exciting. They get to trot and canter and do sort of the jumping kind of things that you might see with ice skating. The part that was so unique about being in Brazil for the Paralympics, for me, as an equestrian, was spending time with people in other disciplines. The United States team shared a high-rise in the Paralympic Village with the Irish team taking up the bottom 2 floors and the United States team taking up the whole rest of the 19 floors of the building. It was so much fun. You ran into a lot of other athletes, especially waiting for the elevators, from all disciplines, from swimmers to wheelchair rugby guys. You never wanted to tell them there was no room in the elevator because they would just make a running start and push their way on.
Okay. It sounds like it was really an exciting experience. How did you manage to qualify for something like this?
This has been an ongoing, probably, Senator, it's taken my whole life to get to this point. Before I was hurt, I was an able-bodied rider and actually competed internationally in 3-day eventing. So that's where the basis of my horsemanship
This is a
comes
lifelong passion for you.
Absolutely. After my accident, I obviously couldn't ride the way I'd been riding before, but I have great friends who always kept me involved with the horses, and as I became stronger, I got more competitive and started to work with the woman who actually coached the Paralympic team for the United States. I started to work with her in 2012 when I actually tried out for the Paralympics in London and just narrowly missed making the team. We went back to the drawing board and found this lovely horse who prophetically was named Rio Rio.
That's truly ironic. I saw that when I was reading about you.
It was a lot of fun during the selection trials to have the judges say, "Let's get Rio Rio to Rio." That made it quite doubly as exciting.
How many members are on a team, and was there anybody else from Pennsylvania or Berks County competing too?
Actually, there are 4 of us were on a team.
Wow.
and 1 individual. But no, there was no one else actually even from Pennsylvania.
That's quite an honor then that
Yeah.
you managed to make that happen.
Being in the Paralympic Village was the most inspiring place, Senator. As you greeted everyone walking around the village, bright smiles on their faces and so enthusiastic, and then you would notice that no one had their full complement of arms and legs. There were people with all sorts of disabilities, from visually impaired to all manner of amputees, quadriplegics, people with no arms pushing people in a wheelchair with no legs. But the energy in the village was so inspiring. No sense of self-pity anywhere, and some of the most determined athletes you would ever see.
I wish we could actually see that in action, to see that happen. It sounds like it was a very inspiring event for you.
And not only the whole with being with the other para athletes, but also the whole aspect of representing your country.
Yes.
There were so many times, especially from the very beginning, when we all lined up outside our apartment to get ready to go to the opening ceremony. There were 300 Americans all decked out in their Ralph Lauren blazers, nicely tailored.
So you get the designer uniform as well, right?
Absolutely, and that's
very cool. I see you wearing that right now.
That's one of the best souvenirs. But the opening ceremony was just the first time that I truly had a lump in my throat to be so proud to be there.
For those of us who just watch those opening ceremonies, it is awesome to see it. So to be one of the individuals who are circling the track or just standing there, it must have been an incredible experience.
The energy is just wonderful. And the Brazilians were so warm and inviting and enthusiastic. At one point after one of my rides, I went to visit my family, who were not allowed in the secured areas, and was mobbed by the Brazilian spectators,
That's neat.
all of whom came over to say congratulations and could we get pictures.
So how did you do?
Well, we didn't win any medals, but the coaches were pleased and my teammates were pleased. And I think as we were all very close, that was almost more important to me than anything.
Just making it and being there with a group of individuals where you really were part of a team.
Absolutely.
That was the best part of the experience. But then I know something happened that I'm really jealous of you of. When you came back to the States, you met with some pretty important people too.
We were so lucky. We were both the able-bodied Olympic athletes and the para-athletes were invited to the White House to meet the President and the First Lady and Mr. Biden as well. There again, the energy in the room, Senator, was just overwhelming. You know, when they walked in, there was a great cheer, and we all lined up way ahead of time. Of course, they have everything and so organized. And they shuffled us through, and we were lucky enough that everyone got their picture taken with the President. He remarked on my canes and said,
Oh, did he?
Yes, he said, very appropriate for the White House. I told him that he could borrow them whenever he needed them. And at that point, the photographer took the picture, so we both had a nice smile.
So it was a real candid shot. And
it was great.
That had to certainly be an honor, but I would imagine that when the president and vice president invite, you know, athletes of your caliber and athletes, you know, who competed on an international basis, it was quite an event, and quite an event for them as well. That's amazing.
As they left the stage, everyone started to chant, USA, USA, and once again, I was totally verklempt.
It's a good word for it.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? Will you continue to compete?
The World Championships are in 2 years.
Okay.
You know, as you know, so many things can happen between now and then.
Right.
But that will probably be my next goal.
You're not giving up. You're going to keep moving forward.
I would like to, but you know, God willing.
Right.
Yes.
That's true for anyone, I would guess.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty exciting. So now on a daily basis, Rio is still in the picture here?
Yes, she is. She's a wonderful horse, and I've been so lucky to have her. I continue to work out, and actually one of the things that I'm the most proud about is that I've been working out at Core Fitness, which is Chris Kaig's.
Oh yes, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Chris Kaig is an Army veteran who has a debilitating disease. He's started to trip when he was in boot camp, and at this point he's in a wheelchair.
Right.
But he has made it possible for people with issues like mine to be in what they call their inclusive program. So we do the core fitness exercises, but in a modified manner so that we get stronger and stronger, but without quite so much wear and tear on our bodies as the people that work out there are so intense, and I know that you realize that. And Chris is as well, and
yes.
He was wonderful. And the 2 weeks before I went to the Paralympics, he worked out with me personally several times a week and made me work really hard. Usually I work out in a little corner of the gym while the regular classes are going on, and I'm just, you know, I do what I do.
Doing your thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They've asked me to be their motivator of the year this for 2017.
That's
and,
wonderful.
To me, that's the greatest honor. They're my peers, and they've noticed how hard I've worked. And coming from someone as impressive as Chris Kaig, I am so honored to have that accolade.
Well, Margaret, knowing Chris and now having the pleasure of meeting you, I can tell you, you're a powerful team. So
thank you.
That's very wonderful to hear. I'm looking forward to learning more about your accomplishments and, you know, where you go from here. Even if it's not competition, as you said, things can change. But the fact that you inspire others to do their best. And I know, for example, in Core Fitness, there are a lot of young individuals, children, young adults with different impairments who are also there as a result of Chris making every accommodation that he can for them to really become fit and excel in their sport. So you have to be an incredible inspiration for them as well. And we're looking forward to what's coming next.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for
inviting
us into your home
yes.
and taking the time to tell us about that experience.